Alright, so today I'm going to talk about the 10 reasons why I love living in Poland. Starting with number 1, Poland is just beautiful. There's this running joke that Poland half of the year is a complete mess. The other half of the year is like the perfect weather. I can actually agree with that. I think during the winter, it's been quite rough. It's not so much the cold that bugs me. It's more like the cloudiness all the time. Like right now we're in April, and then last week there was a few days where it felt just like summer. It was around 28, 29 degrees, beautiful sun out and everything. Just in less than a week, it went back to super cold. I think it's like 7 degrees right now. Super cloudy, it feels like we're back in winter again. Poland during the winter months is probably one of the most miserable places in the world. And once you see the trees blooming and everything super beautiful, it's in a really amazing experience. Out of all the places that I've been to in the world, maybe Colombia is a little better. Poland, as far as nature is concerned, is actually really nice. Warsaw, I haven't been there yet, but from what I hear, it's a really developed city and it doesn't have the same like nature feel as a place like Krakow, and this is something that I really like about this city. The buildings aren't super tall. There's just a lot of parks and nature and the lake, and there's just so many beautiful things. So I personally like the balance between nature and city. And number 2, and I think this is probably the most important thing about Poland, is that it's very safe. As I get older, security and safety is a very big thing for me. Considering how affordable it is to live here compared to a lot of Western European countries, Poland is very safe because it's still a relatively homogeneous population. You want to make a guest appearance in the video? Hello.
Hi, Wes.
Hello.
Hello.
So where are you from?
I'm Egyptian, but also Polish, but also I lived in Canada.
And her Polish is phenomenal.
He only says that because he cannot understand me.
That's true.
I feel a lot more safe here than I did in Canada. In Canada, every few days we hear a story of carjacking. Someone tried to rob my dad, so he had to install cameras.
Even though the people here are not the friendliest, you don't really have to worry about somebody like robbing you or pickpocketing you or assaulting you on the street. Former Soviet countries or like China or East Asia focus a lot more on social order. Women can walk on the streets 1, 2, 3 in the morning. They never really fear anything bad happening to them. So if you guys are thinking about living in another country, whether it's here in Poland or Southeast Asia or Latin America, there's so many things to look for when you're making that decision. People, dating, culture, language, race, right? There are so many layers to it. It can be very confusing if you don't have any experience. So if you guys need help making that decision, feel free to hit me up here for a consultation. Number 3, so this is something that is quite unexpected. I actually like shopping here in Poland because unlike many other places in the world, everyone's like, ooh, are you looking for something? Can I help you? They just start kind of bothering you. Here in Poland, they just say hello. They're not bothering you every 5 seconds. And that's where like the unfriendly culture is actually quite nice. So number 4, I like how there's really easy access to Asian food and ingredients. Here in Krakow, the Chinese food is quite lacking. Korean and Japanese food isn't terrible, but there's a lot of easy access to Asian ingredients. So soy sauce, sesame oil, Korean ingredients, chili powder, and there's a lot of Indians here as well. The Indian food in Krakow is very consistently good, and you can get any Indian ingredient that you need. All the spices, the rice, coming from Colombia, where all that stuff was very difficult to find, to here, where it seems like it's everywhere. That was a very pleasant surprise. Speaking of that, number 5, I'm actually pleasantly surprised by how they treat Asians here. Asians all around the world have a very good reputation. I talk about this all the time on my videos. I never really appreciated being an Asian person until I traveled, because sometimes in the US, it feels like we have a lot of negative stereotypes against us. In Europe, specifically here in Poland, it feels like they quite welcome us. They really like our culture, right? It's quite common to see Polish people enjoying good Vietnamese food. Ramen places always have a line out the door. K-pop is getting extremely popular in this part of the world as well. I think there's a friendly mutual respect in between Slavic people and Asian people. Out of the most interracial relationships that I've seen here in Poland or Ukraine or this side of the world, I think the Asian man, Slavic woman seems to be one of the more common ones. So number 6, the cleanliness here is actually quite good. A lot of the Polish friends that I have a similar level of cleanliness to what I'm accustomed to. Something that we share is that we'll take off our shoes before we get into the house. I thought that was quite funny. This is actually something I really liked about Colombia, is the people there were also very clean and super hygienic. I don't think I've met a Polish girl who has smelled bad, even though a lot of the guys, they have a very strong body odor. But I would say that cleanliness and hygiene here is actually quite high. One of the big reasons why I wanted to come to Europe and Poland is I wanted to experience the 4 seasons again. Living in a place like Southeast Asia or Colombia, the weather is pretty much the same the whole entire year. It just rains sometimes more than others. And I grew up in LA. We do kind of have 4 seasons, but not really. We don't really experience snow, none of that. So this is the first time that I really got to live in a place with snow and real cold, like below 0 degrees kind of thing. And it was a cool experience. The thing about winter here is that it's not the cold that bugs me, it's the cloudiness. Like if there was sun out, maybe in a place like Spain or in Italy, and it was still cold, I feel like I could totally deal with it. The cloudiness is really what affects you, and the seasonal depression is real. But now that it's spring and the trees are starting to bloom again and the sun's coming out, the weather is phenomenal. As someone who really enjoys fashion, spring and winter fashion are the best because you can layer, you can do so many more things with it. And I think that's really where like the European elegance in fashion comes out as well. Something else you're gonna notice here is when you're walking around Poland specifically, the cars will stop for you when you wanna pass through the streets. I think there's a law that puts almost all the fault on drivers if they hit a civilian. So it encourages the drivers to always stop and be extra vigilant when people are crossing the street. I know when I was in Ukraine or in some other places in Europe, the drivers would never stop, but here, particularly in Poland, the drivers will always stop for you. Something really nice in Poland compared to a lot of other European countries is that it's still relatively affordable. I think the prices here have gone up significantly in the last couple of years with the war in Ukraine. If you just cross the border and you go to Vienna, all of the prices for everything go up by like 50%.
It is cheap. Ubers here are for like 12 zloty to get to the center, which is 4 Canadian dollars. And I mean, come on.
Yeah,
it's basically nothing.
Like compared to other places in Europe, you go to Vienna, to go from here to the city center, it'd be like 10 euros, right? I'm just gonna walk, yeah.
I know. I'm used to a certain like cheapness of living now. So whenever I leave the country, it's tragic. I'm like, whoa, it would not be this expensive in Poland.
So here you can get a good, decent dinner for around $10. You can get lunch for around like $6, $7. And the groceries here are super cheap. Bolts here, Ubers here are very cheap compared to other places in Europe as well. Public transport is quite cheap. Rent, all things considered, are also still quite affordable. If you really were bumming it, you can probably get by on $1,000 a month here. For most people, 1,500 US a month is quite a good budget. So Krakow specifically is a very walkable city. I live just outside of the city center, but our tram stop is very close. If you want to go into Old Town, you can take the tram, or if you do want to walk, it's only like a 30-minute walk. And then the whole entire Old Town is walkable. You can go next to the river, the castle, Cashmere's.
Canada is completely unwalkable because everything is at least an hour walk away from you. Our public transport is garbage, you know? In Europe, public transport is made to be optimized like that. You can get to places as quick as possible.
I really like how you have so many options here. You can literally walk to Old Town, you can tram, you can bike, you can Uber, you can skate, and it's flat, so you can do literally anything here. People here are very fitness friendly as well. You'll see people biking everywhere, skating everywhere, walking everywhere, running. I don't know how it is in other places in Poland, but Krakow specifically has a very nice fitness culture. As someone who is also into sport and fitness, being surrounded by people who are constantly exercising pushes you to want to do it more.
Living in Canada, I did no walking. My average score in Canada was like 2,000 a day. It's really bad. Compared to here, I'm on an average of like 6,000, 7,000, which is still not a lot, but for me, that's huge.
But I know people that are like 15,000 a day, 20,000 a day, easy.
That's crazy business.
Europeans are crazy. Something I like about just the East in general. So I would say pretty much anywhere Germany and Austria eastwards towards Asia, we all share these Eastern family values. This is something that I see very common here in Poland. I see it as well in Ukraine, Asia, in China, and Korea, everywhere in like the East part of the world. And it always makes me happy when I go to the park and then I see a bunch of families, dads and the mom and the kids, they're all playing together. It always like brings a smile to my face. I really like the European way of life. It's a lot more balanced. You get a good mix of work, study, social time with your friends. For everything that I'm personally looking for to settle down long term, I think Europe has it. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll catch you on the next video. Peace.